Hello and welcome to the Soul-Led Career Podcast. I'm your host, Marketa. I'm a career coach and a recruiter. On this podcast, I'm looking at a career in a rather unconventional way. Yes, I give out advice on strategies on LinkedIn, CV, and job interviews, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. As your coach, I am here to provide transformation and help you find your soul-led career. Not the right career, but a career that's right for you. So, are you ready? Let's dive right in. Hello, how are you doing? If you're coming back from previous episodes, you might have noticed a different intro. I have rebranded. I decided I'm gonna follow the path that I've been following for the past few years, which has been the path within recruitment and the career coaching. And it's all the questions about career and recruitment are things that people keep asking me over and over. So I was thinking, like, what the hell? If people keep asking me, let's just be a little bit more public about that. And I have decided to rebrand my Instagram and my podcast in this direction. So in that case, either hello and welcome back or welcome to the Soul-Led Career Podcast. I'm so happy you're here. And I actually decided that, yeah, for me, career coaching is so much about the strategy and, the things that people ask me. And these are the things that for me are so easy to explain. So, hey, I'm going to explain. But apart from that, I really do see that the strategies part of it, the way how you should optimize your LinkedIn, what should or CV should not look like, etc., etc. These are things that, okay, they are great to know because they will make you feel like, okay, you got the basics, you feel more empowered, you got these things covered. But then after this is done, I feel like so many things afterwards are about your mindset. So I decided to cover both of these parts of the way how I see career coaching on this podcast. So if this is something that you feel like would interest you, I'm so happy to hear that. Well, I don't hear you, but I imagine that you say that. And for today, I would like to kind of like open up this little series of commonly asked questions on a job interview. Because that's the thing, sometimes they can be a little bit tricky, or we feel like they are a little bit tricky, and you think like, why would they ask this question? How can you answer it, and so on. And so I would like to give you a little cheat sheet of how to think about these questions and to actually be able to get to the core. There are questions that I would start with, right? That are questions of a type of what are your strengths and your biggest weaknesses, or at the beginning when they tell me a little bit about yourself, where do you see yourself in 5 years, etc., etc. These kind of questions that don't have anything really so much to do, seemingly, I would say, with the job that you're doing. But these questions, suddenly you're like, when you're not used to them, and especially if you haven't been on a job interview for like a really long time, you're like, hey, what the hell? Is this a trick? How do I answer it? Is there a right answer? Or can I say something wrong? And so on. Today, for this episode, I'm gonna talk about the question that have two sides of it, which would be the what are your biggest strengths and what are your biggest weaknesses. Now, before I get into it, the reason why recruiters might ask you these questions, to be honest, I hate these questions. I really do hate them, but well, this is not about me. I do hate them, but I still did get them many times because it's kind of like a basic one. So I see the point in these questions in a place where, let's say that you just graduated and you have never been employed before, let's say. So the recruiters in this moment, they cannot really draw from your experience and see how you were handling certain things within your job and so on. So these kind of like broader question would be in a way a little bit more about finding out what your mindset is, what your approach is to things, how would you How could you deal with certain situations? What is your level of self-awareness, etc.? So if we look more deeply onto the questions of what are your biggest weaknesses and strengths, both of them are really testing your self-awareness. Let's start with the weaknesses. When it comes to questions like that, be honest, but also be a little bit like smart about the way how you answer. For both of these questions, I'm gonna give you a very, very simple formula. The formula for this answer, for this question, sorry, would be this and this is my weakness, and this is how I'm working on it. Because, for example, let's imagine that you're applying for a position, I don't know, in customer service, which you're gonna be covering for a certain time zone, and that means that in your location you would need to be at work at 5 a.m. If you say that your weakness is that you are, I don't know, lazy and you cannot get up in the morning, this is probably not the smartest way how to answer this question, considering this is the position that you are applying for. But even if you would want to keep this as an answer, which again is not very smart, but let's play it this way. So even if you do, how can you structure it better, right? According to the formula, this is my weakness and this is how I'm working on it. So yeah, to be honest, like sometimes I used to struggle a little bit with waking up in the morning, but since I started putting my phone on the other side of the room, I need to say I'm pretty proud that I always get up because I just need to. Okay, another example. I used to struggle with being organized. It seems not to be my natural skill, so therefore, always at the end of my day, I plan everything I want to do following day, which makes everything run smoothly. So you show the level of your self-awareness, and also especially when you really say something that the people can relate to, it make them really feel like you're being honest, right? So you're honest to say, I'm not a very organized person, but this is what I'm doing about that. Questions like that don't have to be difficult to answer. Rather than hoping that they're not gonna ask questions like that, when you can already prepare for them, it's just so easy. Okay, again, the formula. This is my weakness and this is how I'm working on it. So, second question. The question is basically the same question, but on the other side of the spectrum. What are your biggest strengths? So, similar to the previous question, this question is testing your level of self-awareness, and I would add to it also a possible level of cockiness. The formula for answering this question would be, this is my strength, and this is how I can use this strength in this job. As an example, let's say that you are applying for a position in sales, right? And there the example could be, I am very outgoing and easy to speak to, which I believe is very useful for the sales position, as it will make my clients feel more comfortable to place an order with me. Do you see where I was going with that? Good, good. So this was just like a short episode. Let me know if these examples made sense, if these formulas did make sense to you. I'm gonna be covering more questions like that. But sometimes, because I'm more usually on the other side of the person asking the questions, and again, these are not really the types of questions I like, so I don't really ask them. But I believe that a lot of people do. So if there's a question that maybe you were asked in the past, or you think they could ask you, let me know about that. There is actually a way how you can leave me a voice note through Anchor, so that's an option. There should be a link in the show notes, or I'm also gonna link my social media in the show notes, and you can text me on Instagram, right? DM me at Life of Marketa. I will be very excited to hear from you, and I will see you. I will not see you. I still cannot get used to this being just an audio thing. Anyway, you were here.